You were getting funding from him the whole time. Without my knowledge, you're naive if you think that's believable. The insult was subtle, but it cut deep. You don't trust me, she said. Damon didn't answer. That was enough to answer. The tension snapped. Maybe my mother was right, Damon muttered bitterly. The sentence left his mouth before he could retrieve it. The air went still. Zuri's face changed. Not into anger, into clarity. What did she say? Zuri asked quietly. Damon didn't respond. Ashton did. She questioned your background, he said carefully. Your upbringing. My upbringing, Zuri repeated. Damon's jaw clenched. It doesn't matter. It matters, she said, voice steadier now. Because you're not correcting it. Damon's frustration turned sharp. You don't understand the pressure. No, she interrupted. I understand exactly. The illusion shattered in real time. Not because of Ashton's secret. Because of Damon's pride. Zuri reached for the ring Damon had given her months ago. A promise ring. Not an engagement. But close. She pulled it off slowly and placed it on the table between them. The sound it made against the glass was small. But finally, I will not be loved conditionally, she said. Not by your mother. Not by your ego. Damon stared at the ring like it was betrayal embodied. You're overreacting. No, she said softly. I'm waking up. She grabbed her purse. Zuri, Damon warned, stepping forward. Don't, Ashton said sharply. Damon ignored him and reached for her arm. Don't walk away like this. His grip was too tight. Not violent, but angry. Let go, she said. Not until we fix this. She pulled back. He lost his balance, and in that chaotic second, she stumbled. Her heel caught the edge of the rug. Time slowed. Ashton moved, but not fast enough. Zuri fell backward, and her head struck the corner of the glass coffee table. The sound was sickening. Not dramatic, just wrong. Silence swallowed the room. Then Zuri touched the back of her head. Her fingers came away red. Damon froze. Ashton crossed the distance in 3 strides. Zuri, he whispered, dropping beside her, cradling her carefully. Her eyes fluttered, then closed. No, 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 Ashton breathed, pressing his hand gently against the back of her head. Call emergency services, someone shouted. Damon stood motionless, staring at what his anger had created. Ashton looked up at him, eyes colder than Damon had ever seen. If she doesn't wake up, Ashton said quietly, everything changes. Not a threat, a promise. Sirens echoed in the distance. And as paramedics rushed in, Ashton held Zuri like something sacred he had almost lost. Not because of love from the shadows, but because secrets, jealousy, and pride had finally collided. Zuri survives, but survival changes everything. Charges are filed. Empires are shaken. And Ashton must decide whether protecting her means finally stepping into the light or losing her forever. Hospitals have a way of shrinking powerful people. Under fluorescent lights, billionaires don't look powerful. They look human. And Ashton Vale, who had negotiated deals worth more than most cities, sat in a hard plastic chair outside an emergency room, feeling like the most useless man in Canada. Because money couldn't rewind 10 seconds. Money couldn't undo a fall. Money couldn't guarantee that Zuri Hart would open her eyes again. The paramedics had moved with calm efficiency, stabilized her neck, checked her pupils, spoke in controlled voices that didn't match the chaos in Ashton's chest. Damon had tried to follow them to the ambulance. Ashton stopped him, not with shouting, not with force, just one look. You've done enough. Damon didn't argue. For the first time that night, he looked small. The waiting room smelled like antiseptic and stale coffee. Ashton's hands were still faintly stained red when the surgeon approached. She has a concussion, the doctor said. A laceration that required stitches. We've run scans. No internal bleeding. She's stable. Stable. The word felt like oxygen. Ashton exhaled for what felt like the first time in an hour. Can I see her? He asked. In a few minutes. And in those few minutes, Ashton faced something he hadn't allowed himself to consider. Everything he'd done, every strategic move, every shadowed protection, every silent sacrifice had led here. Not directly, but undeniably. His secrecy had created tension. The tension had created suspicion. Suspicion had ignited pride. and pride had led to disaster. Love from the shadows had consequences. When they finally let him into her room, Zuri was awake, propped against white pillows, a clean bandage stark against her dark skin, eyes tired but aware. She looked smaller somehow, vulnerable in a way she never allowed herself to be in boardrooms or showrooms. "Hey," Ashton said softly from the doorway. "Hey," she replied, voice hoarse. He approached like she might disappear if he moved too fast. "How are you feeling?" "Like I'm at a coffee table in a very dramatic way." He almost smiled. "Almost. I'm sorry," he said instead. "For what?" she asked gently. "For all of it." She studied him for a long moment. "You didn't push me," she said. "I created the conditions." "That's not the same." "It feels the same." Silence settled between them, not hostile, just heavy with everything unsaid. Zuri shifted slightly, wincing. "I need the truth," she said finally. "You have it." "No," she replied. "Not the financial truth. The emotional one." Ashton swallowed. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want you to question your success. I'm questioning it now." "I know." She looked at him, eyes sharp despite the exhaustion. "You thought loving me quietly was noble." "I did. It wasn't." The word didn't carry cruelty, just clarity. "You took my choice away," she continued. "The choice to say yes or no. The choice to know who was standing behind me." Ashton nodded slowly. "You're right." That surprised her. No defense, no justification, just acceptance. "I don't regret believing in you," he said, "but I regret not trusting you with the truth." That landed differently, because it wasn't about power. It was about fear. A nurse adjusted Zuri's fore and left them alone again. After a while, she spoke softly. "What happens now?" Ashton hesitated. "I filed a report," he said. Her eyes flickered. "Against Damon?" "Yes." Zuri closed her eyes briefly. "I didn't want it to go this far. He crossed the line. He lost control. That's not an excuse." She didn't argue, because deep down she knew it wasn't. "The things he said," she whispered, "about my background, about not being one of them." Ashton's jaw tightened. "That wasn't alcohol." "No," she said. "It wasn't." And that realization hurt more than the stitches. In the days that followed, the city shifted quietly. Damon issued a public apology. Short, controlled, damage managed. He enrolled in mandated counseling. The Cross family lawyers went into overdrive. But Ashton did something no one expected. He stopped fighting quietly. For 2 years, he'd countered Evelyn Cross in the shadows. Now he stepped into the light. Not aggressively, strategically. Developments Evelyn had relied on suddenly faced regulatory scrutiny. Long-standing partnerships reevaluated their alignments. Industry insiders began whispering about her pattern of selective support. Ashton didn't destroy her. He exposed the imbalance. And people, once aware, began choosing distance. When Evelyn requested a private meeting, she arrived composed, but diminished. "I underestimated her," she admitted coolly. "You underestimated many things," Ashton replied. "She's not the problem," Evelyn said. "No," Ashton agreed. "She never was." The settlement that followed included a public statement correcting prior insinuations and financial reparations for contracts influenced by bias. Ashton could have gone further. He didn't, because when he asked Zuri what she wanted, she gave an answer that revealed everything about who she was. "I don't want revenge," she said. "I want room. Room to build. Room to succeed without someone else falling. Room to breathe." That was the difference between her and the world trying to manage her. Recovery was slow. Not physically. Her body healed steadily. Emotionally, it took longer. She cried once, not over the fall, over the illusion. "I thought I was loved loudly," she said one evening. Ashton didn't respond, because this wasn't his moment. "It turns out," she continued, "I was loved conditionally." He met her eyes carefully. "And you?" she asked. "I loved you incorrectly," he said. That answer stayed with her. Not perfectly, not heroically, incorrectly, humanly. 6 weeks after leaving the hospital, Zuri returned to her studio. The first time she stood in front of her sewing table again. She placed her palms on the surface and closed her eyes. No invisible investors, no guardian angels, just her. Northbridge still existed, but now under her terms. Full transparency, full knowledge, full consent. She negotiated new boundaries with Ashton. No more hidden moves. No more silent protection. If he supported her, it would be openly. And if he loved her, that would require something he had avoided for years. Vulnerability. One evening, as sunlight spilled gold across fabric rolls, Zuri turned to Ashton and said something that shifted everything. You love me from a distance. Yes. What if, she said carefully, you tried loving me up close? Ashton didn't rush toward hope. He'd learned better. I don't want to replace Damon, she continued. And I don't want to feel managed. You won't. I need time. I'll give it. She studied him. You've already waited 2 years. I can wait longer. For the first time, she smiled, not out of politeness, out of the possibility. But here's the twist no one saw coming. Just when peace began settling into place, a board member from Northbridge discovered the truth about its origins. And what started as a love story hidden in shadows was about to become a public narrative. And public narratives? They don't protect reputations. They test them. Power is quiet until it's exposed. And the moment a secret becomes a headline, it stops being romantic. It becomes a liability. The first sign wasn't a news alert. It was an email. Subject line, Internal Governance Inquiry, Northbridge Capital. Zuri was in her studio when Ashton received it. He read it once, then again. And for the first time since the hospital, he felt that old tension return. The one that comes when something private is about to become very public. A minority board member at Northbridge had flagged irregularities in the founding documents. Not illegal, just unusual. The firm's origin story didn't align with typical capital structures. There were discretionary transfers that looked personal rather than strategic. And in the world of finance, personal motives are dangerous. Within 48 hours, the inquiry leaked. Not to major outlets. To a boutique business blog that thrived on speculative exposés. Did billionaire Ashton Vale secretly create a venture firm to fund a romantic interest? It wasn't accusatory. It was suggestive. And suggestion is enough. Zuri found out the way most modern tragedies unfold. Through her phone. Her assistant rushed into the studio holding a tablet. You need to see this. Zuri scanned the article. Her stomach tightened. Not from guilt, but from exhaustion. This isn't even the full story, she murmured. No, her assistant agreed. But it's enough to go viral. And it did. Within hours, the narrative fractured into 3 camps online. He's a romantic genius. He's manipulative and creepy. She used him. Zuri stared at that last one longer than she wanted to. Because despite everything, despite transparency now, despite boundaries, people still reduced her to a beneficiary. Never the architect. Ashton called a press meeting before the story could metastasize. Not a denial. Not a defensive statement. An acknowledgement. He stood at a podium in a charcoal suit, composed but unshielded. Yes, he said plainly. I created Northbridge Capital. Gasps rippled through the room. I did so because I believed in an entrepreneur whose talent was being overlooked. A journalist interrupted. Was that entrepreneur someone you had romantic feelings for? Ashton paused, not calculating. Choosing honesty. Yes. Another reporter leaned forward. Did she know? No. That answer hit harder than the first. I thought I was protecting her independence, Ashton continued. In reality, I compromised her agency. The room shifted. Because he didn't deflect. He didn't romanticize it. He named it. I have since transferred full ownership transparency to her and restructured Northbridge under independent governance. No hidden influence. No silent control. Are you two in a relationship? Someone shouted. Ashton's jaw softened. That, he said carefully, is not a business matter. And for once, he stepped away from the podium not as a billionaire defending power, but as a man publicly admitting he got love wrong. Meanwhile, Zuri faced her own storm. Fashion blogs questioned whether Heartline's success was merit-based. Buyers hesitated. Panels reconsidered invitations. Not because she lacked talent, but because controversy makes investors nervous. She didn't cry. She didn't hide. She scheduled interviews. And when asked the inevitable question, did Ashton Vale manufacture your career? Zuri leaned into the microphone and said something that silenced the room. My talent built my brand, she said. His funding removed barriers. Those are not the same thing. A reporter pressed further. But he didn't tell you. No, she said. And that was wrong. The honesty disarmed people. However, she continued, I refuse to let the narrative shift from my work to his wallet. If you want to critique something, critique my stitching. Critique my design. But don't erase my labor because a man made a complicated decision. That clip circulated faster than the original article. Not because it was dramatic, because it was measured, powerful, clear. Behind closed doors, Ashton offered her something radical. I'll dissolve Northbridge completely, he said. Transfer everything. Walk away publicly if that protects you. Zuri studied him. You think disappearing fixes this? It removes suspicion. It reinforces the idea that my success can't stand without you. He hadn't considered that angle. She stepped closer. You don't fix this by retreating, she said softly. You fix it by standing correctly. Correctly. No more hidden moves. No more quiet protection. If you support me, you do it openly. If you care about me, you don't manage me. He nodded slowly. And if the backlash doesn't fade? Zuri smiled faintly. Then we outwork it. But the final twist wasn't media. It was Damon. After weeks of silence, he requested one meeting. Not aggressive. Not dramatic. Just closure. They met in a neutral cafe. No penthouses. No power optics. Damon looked different. Less sharp. More reflective. I'm not here to fight, he said. Zuri nodded. I lost control, he admitted. Not just that night. Before that. I let pride and fear make decisions for me. She didn't interrupt. I thought I was protecting my place, he continued. Instead, I revealed who I was under pressure. There it was. Accountability. I'm sorry, he said. She believed him. But belief doesn't rebuild trust overnight. I hope you find peace, she replied gently. And that was the end. Not explosive. Just finished. Months passed. The controversy cooled. Heartline's fall collection sold out in 3 days without Northbridge intervention. Independent reviewers praised the craftsmanship. Industry panels invited her back. Not cautiously, respectfully. Ashton remained present but visible. No secret calls. No hidden contracts. Just support when requested. Space when needed. One evening, in her studio bathed in warm lamplight, Zuri turned to him and said, Do you know the difference between loving someone from the shadows and loving them in the light? He shook his head. In the light, she said, they can see you choosing them. He stepped closer, not possessive. Just honest. And are you choosing me? He asked quietly. She didn't rush the answer. Yes, she said. But not because you built anything. He waited. Because you learned. And that's the real twist of this story. Not that a billionaire secretly funded a woman he loved. Not that jealousy nearly destroyed everything. But that power only becomes dangerous when it refuses to be accountable. Some men build empires. Some move markets. But Ashton Vale learned something far harder. You can't build a future with someone while hiding in their past. And Zuri Hart? She didn't need a shadow investor. She needed a partner who could stand beside her in full view of the world. Some places hold memories like fingerprints. You can wash them. You can repaint them. But the imprint remains. For Zuri Hart and Ashton Vale, that place was a narrow street in Vancouver's old textile district, where rain once felt like defeat and a stranger once chose to interfere with destiny. 2 years later, it was raining again. Of course it was. Zuri stood under a black umbrella, laughing as water bounced off the pavement in silver sheets. You brought me here in a storm, she asked, shaking her head. You're dramatic. Ashton smiled, not the careful smile he used in boardrooms. A real one. I needed the weather to cooperate. She looked around. The warehouse had new management now. The chain-link fence was gone. The supplier who once dismissed her was history. Her brand, Heartline, now occupies 2 floors in a nearby converted brick building. She had rebuilt this place in her own image. No ghosts, no hidden benefactors, just earned space. What are we doing here? She asked. Ashton took a breath, the kind that feels like stepping off a ledge. 2 years ago, he said, I saw you here. Angry, soaked, refusing to quit. She smiled faintly. I remember. I fell in love with your fire. She raised an eyebrow. You've mentioned that. Yes, but I loved you wrong. The rain softened. Or maybe it just felt that way. I thought love meant protecting you from the shadows, fixing obstacles before you see them, managing risk. Zuri stepped closer. And now I know love means standing beside you, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's public, even when it risks everything. He reached into his coat pocket. Zuri's breath caught, but she didn't move. Last time we were here, he said, kneeling in a shallow puddle without hesitation, I chose silence. Rain soaked his shoulders. He didn't care. I don't want to love you quietly anymore. He pulled out a ring, simple, elegant, not oversized, not performative, just intentional. I want to love you in full daylight, with witnesses, with accountability, with choice. He looked up at her, not as a billionaire, as a man. Zuri Hart, will you choose me the way I'm choosing you? She didn't answer immediately, not because she doubted him, because she understood the weight of choice. 2 years ago, she had been a woman fighting to survive. Now she was a woman choosing her future. She crouched so they were eye to eye. You don't get to manage this answer, she whispered with a teasing smile. He laughed softly. Understood. She studied him. The man who once hid behind glass towers and legal documents, now soaked and vulnerable in the street where everything began. Yes, she said. Not loudly, not theatrically, just certain. Yes, but because you learned. He slid the ring onto her finger. The rain didn't feel cold anymore. It felt like a memory rewritten. 6 months later, their wedding wasn't in a ballroom. It was in her studio. Fabric draped from ceiling beams. Music from local artists. A guest list curated with intention, not status. Evelyn Cross sent flowers. Damon sent a short handwritten note wishing them peace. No drama. No shadow wars. Just clarity. As Ashton stood across from Zuri, watching her walk toward him in a gown she designed herself, he understood something that no financial model had ever taught him. Some men build empires. Some move markets. But the bravest ones? They learn to stand still long enough to be seen. And in the end, that was the only investment that truly mattered. If stories like this matter, comment, like, and subscribe to Melanin Chronicles, where the untold becomes unforgettable.